Good morning. I'm downtown Logan Brown,
And I'm Braydon.
and this is the Pickleball Effect Podcast.
So today we have an exciting guest with us. We have Susannah Barr. We're going to talk about the pro scene, her journey, and her phenomenal success this year. Then we're going to do our 3-0 to 5-0 segment. Logan and I are going to share some clips, and she's going to give us some tips. And then we're going to do some paddle babble. We're going to talk about what paddle she's playing with, how she sets it up, and some upcoming releases for Selkirk. So that's what we got on the agenda. And then our episode is sponsored by Frometh Pickleball. You can get paddles, shoes, balls, bags, everything you need from there at 10% off using the code 10effect. So thank you, Frometh, for sponsoring us. Use the code. Susannah, thanks for coming. Really happy to have you on here. We actually don't live too far away from each other. So I'm in Nampa, you're in Boise. I've done a few tournaments with your son, Porter, phenomenal player. We'll bring Porter up later, but really happy to have you on here. And you've had just such a phenomenal year. I feel like you've just gotten better and better as the years go on. You've been in the scene from the beginning, like before APP was around, right? Like,
yeah,
you were traveling, doing some stuff.
Well, I was playing mostly regional at that stage. I think people think I've been playing a lot longer than I have just because of my age. But if you think about it, like a lot of those top pros, Ben, Catherine, Simone, Matt Wright, Lucy, they were all playing a lot longer than I have been. They were playing way before me. But I've been playing full-time pro for about 2 years. And then I played part-time, I'd say, for about a year and a half before that. So
Gotcha.
kind of 3.5.
And this year in particular, I mean, as far as like, medals and success you've had, this has to be one of your better years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had a lot of success this year. I've had great partners. So obviously it's a partner sport and that makes a big difference. And it takes a lot of work to kind of build your reputation and develop those partners. I always think it's interesting when people say, oh, this is, like your best year ever. And I agree 100%. But I also think like if you look at last year, I medaled at almost every tournament I played last year as well. I just wasn't necessarily winning gold as much.
Gotcha.
So like, yes and no.
So getting more goals has kind of helped your brand a little bit.
Exactly. I would say if anything, people just know who I am more now.
Sure.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I just don't see it myself, but I'm like, I don't know. I played pretty well last year too.
Right. Yeah, you've always been there, and great partners with Megan Fudge, Andre Daescu. You seem to have been a little more consistent with them this year, right? Like maybe in previous years, I kind of felt like you've hopped around a little bit, but you've been steady with these partners, and
that's definitely that's a big a new thing for me for sure. Like I always the last 2 years. I felt like I had like a different partner every tournament. I mean, some players I played with them multiple times, but just a lot of jumping around. And, and I don't necessarily know why that was. It was, I think everybody was jumping around a lot more in the last 2 years, especially on the APP side. And newer players were coming in, and so like Etta Wright, she came in and I was one of the first people she played with.
Nice.
So you just kind of were playing with,
that's funny you say that. Cause like, I've always felt like you were so good at picking up the new talent. Like as they come, like you snagged Etta, like Glosman, like you're with these people early and like you kind of mentor them and help them and play with them a lot. Do you do that? Like, is that like intentional? Do you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, same thing like with Vivian. Like I met Vivian all the way back in February in a local tournament in Oregon. So I kind of saw her before anyone else and was already kind of talking her up. And then we played a regional tournament here, a smaller one as well that we won, and then got to play TOC together. And so definitely, I mean, I think she has so much potential, and I'd love to play with her again sometime if we get the chance. But right now I'm pretty comfortable with Megan, and it has been fun. Like it's been really fun kind of building that relationship a little bit more in depth than I had in the past. I actually been reflecting on it. So it's kind of twofold, right? Like it's great because we know each other so well. right? And
Right.
we've had a lot of success. And it's always like that. Like, why would you want to break up a successful team? It doesn't make any sense, right? Like once you've
Sure.
found a formula that works, like why would Ben and Annalie want to break up, right? You don't want to. But at the same time, like I do think our opponents are starting to know us better too, though. So it's like interesting. Like if you're mixing up who you're playing with, then your opponents have to relearn a new team each time.
Oh, yeah, that's
Like
fascinating.
I don't know. I mean, and I'm not sure. Like I still think I would prefer to have a set partner because it's just like I know who I'm playing with. I know what I'm getting. It's consistent.
But
I
same
was
for the other
thinking
team. They
about
know what they're
that.
getting.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just thinking about reflecting on that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But that was one of the things. Like I was always told last year was like, you play with someone different every time, and you medal with someone different every time. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's where I'm like, you know, like I was still doing well last year too. It just wasn't
Yeah.
consistent. You know, I played with Zane some, and I played with Zane this year as well. And we got a bronze at the PPA in St. George, and played with Mary Brasha, Lauren Stratman. You know, so quite a few different players. But I'm pretty happy to finish the year out with Team Fudge Bar and
Yeah,
with Andre
you can't
Dasco.
beat the nickname there.
Right? We're waiting for our sponsor still though. So
Yeah, there's got to be some Built Bars or something.
yeah, exactly.
Has that changed the way you practice, by the way? Like these, you said the teams start to learn some of your, it doesn't have to be weaknesses, just they kind of
Right.
understand what that next shot's going to be.
Yeah.
Has that changed a bit about how you practice and like new kind of shots you're going to take?
Right, definitely. I feel like more so with Megan and I, we hit a little slump in August. A slump meaning we weren't necessarily getting gold or silver, but we were typically still getting bronze. But I do think we changed some things up at that stage, and now we've gotten gold our last two tournaments. So you know it's good because it pushes you as well to have to adjust and constantly be adding to your game. And so, you know, going back to what Braydon asked me at the beginning, like, yeah, I mean, this year, you know, I have been working really hard. I see a sports performance coach 3 times a week when I'm in town. So trying to stay healthy and in shape. And, you know, I mostly drill. Braydon doesn't get to see me that much because I'm usually just drilling. I don't play a lot of rec. But I actually love drilling, so like it works for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's almost therapeutic in some ways.
Right? I agree. It's like a challenge for yourself. Like you're like, oh, I gotta work on this thing, and I gotta try to improve this shot. Or, but I have like certain drill partners that I have that represent different parts of the game.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's like I don't just drill with the same person, but I will pick and choose. Like, okay, this person is really good at defense. This person, you know, has a really long reach. This person,
that's
brings
a cool way
more
to look
power.
at it.
Yeah, and so I kind of
because I've heard people say before, like, oh, I don't like drilling with the lower level player because those are the people that want to drill with me or something. But if you look at it from that lens, it's like, okay, maybe they're not as good as you overall, but if they're really good at something specific, go drill that with them and improve that part of your game. So that's kind of that's a cool lens. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But like you mentioned, you have a performance. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like you mentioned, you have a performance coach now. You've kind of built a team around you now. Like it's a little more organized. I feel like kind of across pickleball in general, we're seeing, you know, teams form around players as they develop because that's what it takes to kind of, you know, to keep pushing yourself and get to where you want to go. Is that common? Like, are you seeing that more and more too? Like I know, like Tyson has his coach that stallion guy that goes with him. Like Ben Johns has a guy. And I know that you have a few people that you've surrounded yourself with, and that's kind of new this year.
Yeah.
Or maybe you were doing that before.
I absolutely think that's huge. I think I started really building my team, I would say about 2 years ago when I went full time. And then it's just developed, you know, even more in this last year. And I'm really fortunate that my team are also like friends. I'm not at that level where I'm at paying Stallion to come with me to tournaments with me. But it made a huge difference. Like I've noticed it just with my, you know, obviously like my performance coach, you know, that's fitness, but he also talks through my matches. He talks through what he saw when he watched me play, and just having kind of that sounding board. And then on top of that, it's just like it really is good for kind of your mental fortitude of having support. Like, and I didn't realize that before, but it's huge. Like, to have people that you can, rely on for help, or to voice concerns, or
Yeah.
just who always are going to support you. And maybe they don't always agree with what I'm saying, but they're always going to be like, you're our friend, you're who we're working with. So it's really made a big difference as far as just confidence and almost mental health in a way, right? Like,
Right.
of just,
Yeah.
I'm not just out
it
here
makes
on
so
my
much
own.
sense. You're
Mm-hmm.
traveling a lot. You spend a lot of time by yourself, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
you don't do that, it could be lonely, I imagine.
Right. So, I mean, I don't have, I don't have a coach or anyone who comes on the road with me all the time. But definitely I have people that I'm texting with a lot. They're watching my matches. I have a coach that I work with here in town. And it's like you said, like, she's not a pro pickleball player, but she knows pickleball and she knows how
Yeah.
to coach. And so I can go out and drill with her and get the practice in that I need. I have a mental coach out of Utah that I work with. And so, I'm not seeing him, but we're communicating,
Yeah.
calling each other to kind of talk through, like, how to get my best performance I can get. And then, just on the road itself, like, I do have friends that we've kind of built friendships that we're supporting each other out on the court. And Megan is one of them. Like, we've become actually good friends as well as partners. And so that's really nice to know that, unless I'm competing against her, which, in mixed, we have to play each other. But I know that, she'll be there on my sideline. I mean, unless
That's
I was
cool.
playing.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's
She
so
might
many
not
pieces
support
to the
that.
puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many pieces, and you have to build each one. It's not just one area.
Right.
And yeah, you're hitting the big blocks, which
Mm-hmm.
is cool to hear. So speaking, the great year you've had, like, also on the MLP side,
Yes.
and it's been kind of a whirlwind with MLP and PPA stuff, which we'll talk about here in a second. But you've been competing at the challenger level. You're currently on the Las Vegas Night Owls.
Mm-hmm.
The first season, you guys won the super final.
Yeah.
Just
so
much fun there. Love watching you play. But some recent MLP news. Logan, you sent this to me from Jimmy Miller and Kuhn. We'd love to hear kind of your take on what's going on there. So Logan, what was that piece?
Yeah, well, I guess that the hot news coming from his side of the camp is that Steve Kuhn has stepped down from, I guess, his board seat, right? And stepped away from MLP, it sounds like. I'm not sure if that means that he's necessarily giving up his equity, or if he sold his equity, or if he's just giving up his right to vote on the board. But it sounds like he's going to be spending more of his time on Duper and maybe minor league pickleball. I'm not sure. But Susannah, I know you mentioned earlier before we even came on, you might not have exactly the definitive answer on this, but what I'm more so interested in is between the lines, because as a fan and someone who's very passionate about pickleball, I'm just really confused about the whole situation. And you seem like someone who has a good head on their shoulders and maybe is piecing these things together better than me. If you go back 2 months, Steve Kuhn is on Instagram and YouTube, and he's talking about this is the future. MLP is the path forward. Then we have the tour wars. He goes out and tries to prove it by trying to sign players and saying, this is what the players want. This is what the fans want. And now today, seemingly, he is no longer a part of it.
Right.
Is this do you think this is more about where pro pickleball stands, and maybe he doesn't feel like it has as much like leg as it did originally? Or do you think this is just a bunch of people butting heads now that they're a combined force?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, and the first thing is as far as I know, it's not confirmed.
Right.
Like any of the information, like, as a player, we have not received any official word on Steve Kuhn or the board or really anything. It's very quiet as a player, which is, again, that's also a little bit of an issue. We definitely would like to know a little bit more what's happening, being that it's, part of our livelihood.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
But I mean, I definitely have heard the rumors. And, it's hard to kind of understand, like, if it is true, like what happened and what it means. Because Steve was always, such a strong supporter of the pro pickleball scene and specifically of the players. That was one of the things he always stood for was making sure that the players were treated well and fair. And that's part of, the big reason that so many players initially signed contracts with Major League Pickleball was because of Steve and because of, the reputation that he has.
I think you're one of them, right?
Yep. Yeah. I signed a MLP contract as well. And so, yeah, it's hard to say like what this could mean or why it happened. My guess would be it's probably more business related, than anything necessarily pickleball related.
Okay.
It's ultimately it's a business and, and if they're having disagreements on how to run the business, that can be hard to overcome. So, as a player, obviously we're just hoping that it works out for the best for both the sport and for the players. And, if Steve isn't as much a part of it, that'll be sad for most of the players because we really like him and have a good relationship with him. If he is still a part of it, then that's great. And, but definitely, I think the majority of us were still just kind of waiting and trying not to think too much into it because it can get a little bit.
Since the merger's been announced, like it sounds like you and a lot of players are still in the dark as far as what the schedule is going to look like, and like that. None of that's really surfaced yet, has it?
Right. No, none of that information has come out. The only thing we were told was our contracts would be honored, and so.
Oh, so they're not going to try to renegotiate or anything?
As far as, that's the only information that I've been given. And so we're just sort of waiting to see what the schedule looks like and how the teams are going to be formed and what other requirements
you're expecting
they're going to have.
Primarily play APP and MLP next year. Is that your plan? Or that was the original plan?
That was the original plan. Yes.
So assuming it all works out, you'll try to do that.
Yeah, that's the plan. It's, we'll see what MLP, obviously signing a contract with them, has some requirements. And so but at this stage, we're not really sure what all those requirements are.
Sure. Because I remember, I think last year you signed, when you signed your MLP contract, you had to do like 5 PPA events or something. Is it something similar to that?
No, I didn't have to do that.
Oh, you didn't have to do that? Okay.
No, with my MLP contract, I didn't have to do any PPAs as a challenger player.
Gotcha.
But no, at this stage, like, honestly, it's so up in the air because, we really don't know. There's this merger, but the contracts were written separately. And so, that part is still we're just waiting.
Yeah.
Waiting to see what it looks like.
So I know you did a tournament this year in England with APP, and APP seems to be making a big push internationally. Do you have plans to do more international stuff with them? Yeah,
hopefully. Again, a lot of this is just waiting to see what happens, and that was a big, when we got these contracts, like that was one of the concerns was like, okay, I do want to do these other opportunities. And so, but the opportunity with Major League Pickleball, the stability and everything that it provides and just being part of that team environment was too good to pass up.
Right.
And so, but definitely, like, if I'm given the opportunity, we're already kind of looking at a tournament in India, possibly this winter, and, hoping that once we actually know the schedule, we can start making some plans.
Yeah.
But I would love to do more international pickleball. Like the tournament in England was probably my favorite this year.
Okay.
And it wasn't just because I won both mixed and women's. Shout out to our local friend Nick Peterson, who came last minute and partnered with me, and because Andre wasn't able to make it, and we ended up winning. So
he did the job.
Local stud.
That's awesome.
But what was so great about it was there were players there from like 35 different countries, and
Wow.
they just were all so excited about pickleball,
Cool.
and it just felt like, yes, there's money on the line. Yes, there's competition and pride on the
But
line.
just had a new vibe.
But
It was just fun.
it had that kind of refreshed feel that everybody was just really excited.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant the APP's making the push there. It makes a lot of sense. While there's kind of all this turf wars going on here,
Yeah.
they're looking elsewhere, and it's fun.
And it's exciting. Like, we want pickleball to grow globally.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
Yeah, I mean, APP, you said something about stability. I can understand that a guaranteed contract certainly brings stability to your life, but as a tour, it seems like they have been almost, the most stable at this point. Like, I don't know if players are thinking about
You're
this.
saying the APP has been the most stable?
Yeah, they don't have all this turmoil going on, but like trying to fight each other. And are they making money? It seems like they've put together a product that time and time again can bring amateurs to the game, pay the bills. They have sponsors coming through. Maybe PPA was doing the same, but I guess that's a good lead in to what I was going to ask, is that I heard through some podcast or wherever that even just center court at nationals, the PPA is putting on, is going to cost $1 million. The production they're putting into it.
Sheesh.
And
they
so
can't do line calls.
yeah,
maybe
we'll
they
see
can
how
do
the
some
line
line
calls
calls.
are. Hopefully I'll be playing on center court at nationals.
That's right. But I was just curious, like, as a player, like, are you concerned at all with some of the numbers you've heard thrown around as far as contracts and like its actual sustainability and stability over the next 2 years?
Yeah.
Can it sustain
for
at
sure.
that level given
100%. I mean, it's beyond my pay grade, all the financial side of it all. But it is, you do hear a lot of things about the numbers and about what players are being paid and what they're spending on tournaments. And, and even on the APP side, like, I don't know that much about it, but I do believe that they do a really good job of trying to make sure that they're within their means, when they're running a tournament. And so, financially, that's, obviously a smart thing to do, but, I don't know about the PPA. You just hear the rumors, but if they're within their means, then, that's sustainable as well. Yeah, I mean, it's, there's still just change constantly, right? It's every day. It seems like something new is coming out. And, as a player, definitely, like, you're always a little bit on the edge of your seat of, like, is this gonna, pay the bills? Is this gonna come through? Obviously you want to play your best, because that's going to be your best way to make money, is to perform.
and control what you can control as well.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, it'll be interesting. I do think, though, that in general, the sport's just going to keep getting bigger, and we are going to get more and more sponsors. So even if some of the tours are losing money right now, maybe they're looking at a long game, and, and that within a few years, it's just going to get, more and more sponsorship money to help make up for those, the losses that they might be taking now. So, that could be one of the things that they're looking at. And of course, the biggest thing for all the tours is just getting eyeballs, on the matches, and because that's what sponsors want, right? They want to see their names and their products and players, using their products. And so, I think that's probably the biggest hurdle that Pro Pickleball still has, is just how do we get televised pickleball to be more mainstream and followed more followed in that manner. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's still the biggest hurdle, because I remember MLP Daytona this year. I remember a friend came to watch. I was in Florida, and this friend lived over in Tampa or something. So they came to watch, and then I was like, "Well, are you watching?" And the whole time they were just out playing rec.
Oh my God.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's still pickleball." Like,
People just want to play.
Right? They would still prefer to play than necessarily sit there and watch.
They're there.
Right. It was pretty funny.
Huh.
I mean, it was like an opportunity to play with players from other places, and maybe, higher level play that we don't get, at home or whatever. But it just kind of like, it kind of resonated with me that we're still not really there with being a spectator sport. And so, that's definitely beyond all the rest of what is pro pickleball going to look like. That's still the biggest hurdle that we need to get over is making it something that your average person wants to watch and pay money to watch, or have sponsors pay money.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story. Like I'm just so involved in pickleball, and I love watching. And when I do go to a pro event, like I'm the dude that's sitting in the stands from like 8 to 8, but I realize that I'm unique. Like I'm not the average person when it comes to pickleball habits, and so yeah, it's kind of like that's kind of like a reality check, right? For me, it's like, okay, that's really where we're at. Even though in my head I'm like, everyone's watching this, right?
Well, it's the same thing. You go out to the park, and if you ask them who are pro players, like the majority of the players at the park, they don't know, right? Yeah. They're just out there playing. And so, so ultimately getting pro pickleball to be better respected, or, visibility is going to be the biggest thing to help make it grow, to me anyways.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So I know, in addition to all that stuff you have going on, you also do a lot of lessons. You're going to be the pickleball director at a new facility, and you do a lot of camps, and that's a big part of your life. And so we're going to do a little segment here with Logan and I. So we have some video clips we're gonna watch with you of us playing games, and we want your input on what we can do better. So I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna put Logan up first.
Oh gosh, I also have no idea what clip he chose. So
I don't even know what level you play, Logan.
You can rate me. Rate me. I don't even have a duper, so this is good.
We'll expand this. So this is Logan. I snatched a couple clips. Both of these are similar. Like he missed a dink off the backhand.
I don't think she knows which one is me.
There's gonna be another one here.
I know. Are you the one without the shirt on, or the?
Yeah, I don't look that good.
That's what Susannah's looking at.
I'm the one with the hat, the left-hand side.
Okay. Was that enough, or should we play it through one more time?
Watch it one more time.
Okay. Yeah. So Logan, bottom left. So that's clip one. Here's clip two.
Okay.
All right.
How can I?
All right, Logan.
Susannah, so tell me.
What should I do? At the very beginning, right? First, we need to get a deeper return.
Okay.
Right here.
Right. Your return was pretty short, even though your opponents didn't capitalize on it. They didn't really come in as much as they could. But otherwise, the only thing that I would say is just increasing your footwork on that backhand. Right. You're just a little bit letting that ball get pretty close to your body. And if you can pivot back, or you can move your feet so that the ball's just not quite as close, a little bit further out in front of you when you're making contact. I do like on this last one, even though you hit it into the net, I like that you changed the direction of the dink. So you were making the right choice, right?
Just didn't execute.
It's like you can see there, your footwork, you were leaning back, and then the ball got a little close to you, and then you didn't have that space to be able to push through it. So it just died and went into the net.
Yeah, it's really good feedback. I was feeling that today too, and I was playing. I'm letting the ball get way too deep on me without reacting enough. So that's
right.
Really cool.
Yeah. So you have choices, right? You either can take it out of the air before it gets that close to you, or step back, further, get away from that kitchen line, even though we're taught, stay at the kitchen line, stay at the kitchen line. It's not really true, right? Move your feet so that ball's in a better position for you to hit, instead of just holding your ground and letting that ball get,
move your
6
feet,
inches.
Like laterally, step back, or just kind of variety, just being more
it's
active,
going to be a variety,
getting the ball in a better position to
it's going to be a variety
increase your chances to hit it
based on the ball, right? But on that first one, I would have pivoted back. If he had pivoted off the kitchen line a little bit, then he would have had that space.
There's too often where I'm short hopping the dinks.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, you're short hopping a lot of dinks instead of giving yourself a little bit of room to work with. And then when you're short hopping, you're not really pushing through the ball as much. You're just sort of lifting it. You're not putting a lot of pressure on your opponents. So footwork is so important. We cannot control where the opponents hit the ball, but we can control where we hit the ball, where we make contact. And we're going to do that by moving into position.
Yeah, I need to stop being lazy, Braydon.
Okay, so then here's mine. So little context here. Mixed is probably where I struggle the most. And part of it's just, I don't know. I think I know part of the reason why I lost this point, but we'll get your take on it. So
okay.
we're at Stu's house. You know everybody here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll walk through this or watch through it, and we'll see what you say.
Ooh, interesting. Let's watch it one more time.
Okay, yeah, we'll go through here. Yeah. And that shot was in by like a foot.
Right. So but did you try to let it go? Or you just
I let it go. Thinking it was on my left side of my body.
Right.
But I think I might have been cheating too much.
Right. No, I agree on that. I mean, I thought it was a really well-developed point. I mean, the first thing would be like, maybe you take 40% and you let Daphne take 60% of the court. That might help. Just kidding. That's not always the best mixed practice, but Daphne's obviously a great player. But I mean, so I saw something Daphne did right off the bat that kind of allowed. Wait, who are you guys playing? Who is the?
It's Eric and Mariana.
Okay, Mariana. Was that she had Mariana pushed off the line, and then she chose to dink Eric instead of continuing to pressure Mariana.
Was this towards the beginning?
It was towards the end. Okay, so it kind of started the whole ending. So right here, she has her pushed off the line.
Oh, and then she
goes back. Whereas Mariana is the one who's more off balance and had been pushed back. And I think you guys at that stage should have pressured her.
Gotcha.
But instead it kind of allowed them to get reestablished again. And then you're a little bit further off the line because you're like, okay, well, Eric's taking this ball. What's going to happen? And then Eric put the ball back to Daphne, right?
Yeah, he goes here.
Mm-hmm. And then she goes down that line with a little bit of a higher ball.
Yeah, like so Daphne left it up a little bit. So like it was attackable, but it wasn't, just like an easy, put away or anything. So I think my thought process was, she's probably going to speed this up down the middle. So I cheated a little bit looking to take something with my forehand, and she hit a great shot. But should I ever be that far over?
I don't think you're in a bad position because Daphne's shot was so far down the line that you did need to
gave that angle an option.
Yeah, I mean, you did need to cover middle a little more, but I do think like you went pretty far over, but you were still sort of sitting backhand. So you don't need to be that far because that's your forehand there covering the middle. Right? So, I think you could have been right at the line, but not over the line. And then, leaning with your hips and your torso towards Mariana so that you're ready at that stage to either go forehand or backhand.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I agree. That makes sense. And because Daphne can cover that space where I was over.
Well, and you can cover with your forehand a lot further.
Right. I can step and reach. It's like, yeah. Like, don't have to be right on top of it.
Right. Not in that case. If you were on the other side and it was your backhand in the middle, I'd maybe want you to cover a little further because it's just naturally easier for us to reach further on our forehand anyways. Yeah. But yeah, so you're leaving a little bit, too much.
Especially on that forehand side. Look to kind of step and reach rather than.
Right. Because I mean, honestly, like if she pops this ball up, like or attacks it and it's high like that, if you could have hit that with your forehand and countered it back and away from your body, like if you were making contact with that ball, you don't want it jammed right at your body anyways.
Yeah. So
right?
it's almost
You
better
want
to
some space
leave some space
forehand.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Sweet. Love it. Thank you for the tips.
Yes. Very fun.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And then, so kind of sticking with this theme of moving 3-0 to 5-0, there's been a lot of talk this week on forums about ball machines. So the YouTube channel Building Pickleball did this piece about practicing, and he made an argument against ball machines, basically saying it's not a real life situation. You're not able to read your opponent. So it's just this kind of rote scenario. And a lot of people were against the idea, thinking, saying ball machines are great for, building repetition, building muscle memory. But Building Pickleball's argument was, okay, yes, you're doing that, but are you going to be able to replicate that in a game? Are you going to be able to execute that in a game when it's not the exact same thing and it's better to drill with somebody rather than a machine? And so with you doing so many lessons, I imagine you use machines. Like, do you agree?
So I do not have a ball machine.
Oh, you don't use ball machines?
No, I don't have one. I borrowed one last winter that I would use sometimes myself. And I think I used it once in a lesson. And that was when somebody who's not a tennis player was trying to learn how to hit a drive.
Oh, so you're in the camp of let's get a drill partner in front of you and practice rather than just repetition.
Like I would take the ball machine out for myself when I just needed to get some form touches, like say for drop shots or some different things I was working on with volleys, because I do think there's a benefit. Like if you're working on changing your form, then you do need that consistency because, you don't want to have to be judging, where's the ball going and the pace of the ball and all this other information and be thinking about, how do I change this form or this grip? You can just think about
the one thing.
Yeah. And so in that sense, I do think there's a role for ball machines. You need a lot of, you're working on a new backhand volley or, your top spin. Like a lot of players, I always feel like to move from 3-5 to 4-0, you need to develop top spin. And so, that's one that, they have to learn the right form and then they need to hit a lot of balls and try to judge them and hit them correctly. Right. So in that sense, it's good. But I do think obviously when you're in a match, the variety of pace and spin and angles that you're going to see is so great in pickleball. It's a combination of different paddle technology, missed hits, sweet spots, just a whole bunch of things, the weather that's constantly changing. And so in that sense, a drill partner is going to give you that variety of that. And again, it kind of goes back to Logan and your backhand dink of you've got to, so the ball machine's going to teach you the form and get you kind of your form down. But then you're like, okay, I like to hit my drop, like a drop shot, maybe at, 12 inches off the ground and 1.5 feet in front of me.
Yeah. You
got to move your feet now.
So do people think that way? Like we're looking at inches here?
Well, that's how I think about it.
Okay. This is why you are so much better than me.
I'm like, I know exactly where I want that ball to be when I make contact with it.
Yeah, I think I know
to hit a good drop. So now I got to move.
Yeah. Because I played tennis in the past, like I think I probably have that similar mindset too, where I know the perfect drop scenario. And that's kind of when I will also, not that I'm that great, but I will try to take a little harsher of an angle with a little more top spin on a forehand drop if I can get it in the preferred spot.
Right, exactly. And so, so the ball machine's going to help you figure out that preferred spot and that preferred form. But then you need the variety to teach you how to move yourself into position so that you're hitting the ball where you like it.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good answer.
And sometimes it's like moving backwards. Like if they're hitting it with a lot of pace and a lot of height, you might need to move backwards for say a drop shot, which a lot of people don't like doing, right? They think, oh, I can't ever get back behind this baseline that much. And it's like, no, like you've got to make constant adjustments. Sometimes you got to move forward. Sometimes you got to move backwards, So I think there's roles for both. I would say for me, a ball machine would be a smaller part of my training. Yeah. 5 to 10%. I don't, and then, but you got to have a partner. You got to have somebody to drill with, and a ball machine's going to be better than not drilling at all.
That is a much better answer than anything I read from other people. Because in reality, right, it's going to be a little bit of a mix. Mm-hmm. But I agree with. It seemed like a lot of people were like very for machines, like, and where the video wasn't. And I think you made a great case. Like, it has its place, but in the grand scheme of things, you need both, and probably if you can, get more drill partner. Logan,
and you need some weather.
And you need some weather.
Yeah.
Logan, what do you have experience with machines? Did you have an opinion on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to his podcast, and he brought up a lot of quotes from, I don't know if they were doctors or they're doctors in the sports world, right? And there's a lot of good points. I appreciate it. I think one thing that he brought up that's worth noting is that there's a lot going on in your head that you may not think about when you're watching a player make contact with a ball. And same, like he brought up other sports, like, because I played baseball, and I definitely went to the batting cage where I had a machine throw balls at me. And it's weird because a ball machine, you can kind of see that arm come up and it flips it out at you, but it's not the same as watching a pitcher go through his windup. And the same as, it's not like when Susannah sees, maybe she's drilling with Andre and she sees Andre, rear back and knows that a massive drive is coming. And she's like reacting to that and changing what she's about to do because of it. But yeah, in baseball and in tennis, I've used it. And in tennis, I used a ball machine that, now I know this is not perfect, but it had like a bunch of different settings. So it would, one ball short, one ball long, one ball forehand, one ball backhand. So it moved you around and kind of got you in like you were a little like off pace because you're standing on the left side of the court and you can't remember if the ball machine's supposed to go right this time or center. And so there is a bit of that nuance I think was good. And you're outside, you're in the elements. Now the batting cage was a bit different. I think most of the pros, when they can, get a pitcher out there to throw them balls, but yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the new machines do add that variety. The pickleball ball machines. So that's a good thing, right? So you can mix it up. You can vary, where the ball's going to go on the court. But absolutely. I mean, one of the first things I always teach, newer players is what are you watching on the other side of the net? Right. And we have to watch paddles, and we have to watch our opponents, and we have to watch how are they hitting that ball. And so, like you were saying, the ball machine doesn't give you that information that we need to also train our brain to be able to judge, when they're making contact with the ball, how hard are they hitting? What angle are they hitting it? How much are they lifting it? Are they putting spin on it? So, those are, while yes, you can learn your own shot, but like you said, we need to also see a lot of repetitions of our opponents or our drill partners hitting the ball to be able to build those neural pathways of being able to register really quickly what's happening.
Love it. So good. So we'll jump into our last segment here. Of course, paddles is my thing. So we got to talk paddles. So you currently play with the Power Air Invicta, correct?
Yes.
So before that, you've been with Selkirk for a long time. And before that, you were playing with the Vanguard Maxima, which is like a very control focused oriented paddle. And then you went to this more, this thinner, faster, more power paddle.
Right.
Was that what was that change? Like, did you see benefits going from control to the power?
It was a hard change. And actually, I would say the Maxima out of any of the Vanguards had the most power, especially if you weighted it kind of top heavy. But it was still a huge change as far as
just feel like
the dwell time of the ball on the paddle. So like the first time I got the Power Air, I was like, nope. This is not going to happen.
I was surprised when I saw you on the court with it. I was like, I didn't think she was into it.
And then I went on a 2-week trip that I didn't take a pickleball paddle at all. And so then when I came back, I was like, now's the time to make the switch because I haven't touched my paddle. And I just forced myself to like never pick up my Vanguard again. And I knew I was doing it. I mean, there was a couple of reasons for it. One was I did want more power. I'd heard, the reviews on the Power Air, and so I knew I wanted more power. I also wanted like the faster hands that I think it gives you. And then also it was just kind of the new paddle for Selkirk, right? And I wanted to represent my brand. And so that was kind of the moment that honestly, it took me about 5 weeks until I felt like, oh, this is part of my hand. It took a while. It took a lot longer than when I've switched between some other paddles. But now I'm super happy with it. But I actually had to change my form a little bit. So that was where my coach came into play. So she was kind of helping me like, okay, here's, now that the ball is not dwelling on your paddle as long, like you need to roll faster. You need to do some different things with it.
Oh, fascinating.
That's when she
really
hit the ball machine, Braydon. She was ball machine, just
the ball machine at that moment was good. I did use the ball machine at that moment for
I was kidding. Look, I was right.
I was having the hardest time actually with like drops with the Power Air. Even less than defense. Like defense has never been an issue for me. I was a volleyball player and there's a lot of touch that goes in with that, but getting kind of the spin better. But I'm super happy because I do think like it also did contribute somewhat to my game changing, maybe finding a little more success as well with that, just because, I can hit the ball harder. It is coming off the paddle faster. And as we know, I mean, that's the thing right now, right? Like people are hitting the ball pretty darn hard and, you got to be able to hit it hard as well. And, obviously there's times where they're hitting a really hard ball and the ball like deflects off my paddle and goes out. And I'm not super happy about that because it's just so poppy, but, it's all timing.
There's always a little give and take. Yeah.
Adding some more topspin to the ball and keeping them in. But what I really like, what I think it probably helped the most with is I do feel like my hands got faster, up at the kitchen line and a little more confidence with handling volleys and firefights and things like that. So
yeah, I feel like that's kind of the magic of those paddles is the power and speed combo, because a lot of paddles use weight to help generate more power, and but the Selkirk kind of does it while maintaining that really nice, good hand speed.
Right.
And yes, and it's a big thing. And but you make a great point. Like there is going to be adjustment period between paddles, and like for people listening, and you get a new paddle, and it has the characteristics that you want and is part of the game that you need, like give it a little more time before you just quit on it to kind of figure it out, because you do have to make adjustments.
Yeah, and figuring it out.
Yeah. And if it has that style that you think is going to benefit you in the long run, like, stick with it. And Logan and I have talked about this in the past, where like I've said that I switch paddles so often, I think it hurts me, and it's beneficial to stick with the paddle for a while. And but yeah, that's a cool input there. So do you add any weight or adjust it at all, or do you play it stock?
No, I do. I put some weight on the end. So I do like a top heavy paddle. And then I actually put some weight in the little smiley in the mouth.
Oh, do you really?
I don't know what you call it, but yeah. Like I was thinking about putting it on the bottoms on this, but to balance, but I was like, but it has this big cutout here. And so I didn't know how much adding weight down by the handle would really even affect the sweet spot because of the cutout. So I thought, I'll just put the weight inside the cutout.
Oh, interesting. And you think that kind of helps with getting the balance point?
Yeah, just a little bit more balance. Increasing that sweet spot just a tiny bit. But the majority of my weight is on the end, and I've always played with my paddles that way.
The Maxima with its super long handles was always a little heavier, so you were probably used to it. A little bit
swing weight, a little heavier swing weight, I guess. And then I don't know. I think I make contact with the ball maybe a little further on the end of the paddle than possibly some other players do.
Yeah, and having that weight at the top is going to help with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that works for me. It just allows me to reach a little bit further and generate some spin down at the, just in a little bit of a different way, I think, than some of the other players.
Yeah, so Selkirk has their new controllers coming out soon too. I imagine you've hit those. I was actually played today with Porter and at a hobble, and we finished there, and I busted my ass back here to make it back for this. But he was telling me he was involved with messing around with a lot of the prototypes, kind of helping deciding what the best version was. Were you involved with that too? Were you guys kind of both?
No, I was not. He's they love Porter. Everyone loves Porter, so they actually flew him up there. I think it was a while ago, maybe with the spin serve or something. They were doing a little thing, so it wasn't that long ago. I guess like whatever, okay. 8 months ago.
So this paddle's been in the works for a bit.
Right. But yeah, I have hit with it. It's pretty nice. I don't have one yet to like go try it longer, to really see what I think. But my initial impressions, well, for one thing, Rob Nunnery's using it and he's playing incredible. He's very hard to play.
I was very surprised because he's always used like the 002 or apparently from what I've gathered, I'm still waiting on mine too, but from what I gathered, this is like the other end of the spectrum.
Right. But he's actually got a lot of power off it and a lot of spin. My first impression was it was definitely a jump from the Power Air. It definitely felt a lot softer. And so it would be more of a,
which is what it's supposed to be, right?
Right.
Like it's
exactly.
supposed to be
definitely more control. So I would definitely be interested to go out and mess around with it a little bit. And I do think it's a really nice paddle, and it looks really nice.
Yeah, Selkirk knows how to make paddles look good.
Yeah, but for myself, I'm not sure if it would be what I would switch to at this stage, just because I've kind of found that fine line between adding some power, but yet still being able to control the ball.
So I want to ask you about the 002. So yes. I feel like a lot of the pros all your contemporaries are using it.
Yes.
Like, I think there's more people using the 002 over the Power Air. Like you use it. Catherine uses the Power Air, but it seems like a lot of the other folks are using the 2.
Right. I would say it seems like.
Did you mess with that one?
I did. There's more. Seems like there's more women using the Power Air and more men using the 002. It'd just be kind of what I think, because I think either Jade or Jackie Kawamoto's using the Power Air. Judith Castillo's using the Power Air. So I did mess with it. And it's as a pro, it's very hard to play against. Like I don't like playing players that are using the 002. Because
it just hits a little harder.
Oh, it hits so hard. And it, it definitely is a little bit harder to read the ball coming off that paddle. So it's probably one of my least favorite to play against. But I couldn't use it just because it has a lot more vibrations, and it really ended up like my joints were not happy. So it didn't quite work for me at where I'm at, and that was the main reason. Is it was like too much. It was too much paddle for me. I needed.
It was too much for me too. It was.
Yeah.
It was. I'm not good enough for it. Like you had to. And yeah,
maybe you gotta be stronger or something. Like maybe I wasn't. I'm not strong enough.
Was that a subtle dig right there, Susannah?
Not against you, against myself.
Thanks.
But maybe. I mean, it could be like you got to be, strong enough to wield that paddle well, and but if you can do it, it's definitely a weapon out there.
Well, good deal. That's everything I have for you today, Susannah. Really appreciate you hopping on. Really enjoyed our conversation. Had a lot of fun. And thanks for everyone else for hopping and listening. Go follow Susannah. You're on Instagram. She has a YouTube channel. You have a couple of YouTube channels. Tell us what you're doing there.
Oh, I just have the one with Porter and with our sports performance coach, Mike. And that's the Pickleball Academy. We haven't been able to add anything for a little while just because Porter's in college and that's taken a lot of his time. And he's our editor and film and videographer. But as soon
tell him to step it up.
I know, right?
I got a family and I still do this stuff. He can do it.
Yes. And he's also coaching. He's coaching a lot right now.
Yeah, no,
but as soon as his semester finishes, we're going to get back into our YouTube channel and try to start adding some more. But I do try to keep my Instagram page pretty updated. And I do like to add tips and instructional stuff as well as just my results in my life.
Yeah, 100%.
Things that are
yeah.
going
And
on.
as we witnessed today, you picked up on some stuff from watching, those clips in like 2 seconds. Yeah, phenomenal coach, instructor. Go follow her accounts, and you'll be happy you did. Lots of good stuff coming out of there. But again, thanks for hopping on.
Me.
We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.